Something unusual happened across Oregon in the last 24 hours. On almost every fire in the state, containment went up. On 2 of them, the fire ran anyway. The bench fire near Warm Springs grew by more than 15,000 acres in a single day. And in the same 24 hours, crews took it from 3% contained to 22%. Both things are true at once. Coleman Creek went the other way entirely. It added more than 34,000 acres in one day, and containment is still at 0. Statewide, 32 large fires are burning. Nationally, 85 large fires remain uncontained, and the country stays at preparedness level 5, the top of the scale. If you live anywhere in central or eastern Oregon, this report is meant to help you work out where the fire is, what has changed since yesterday, and what you should be doing. Let us start with the fire that moved most. 4 miles south of Warm Springs, the bench fire now covers more than 60,000 acres. Yesterday it was 45,000, but look at the second number because it matters more. Containment climbed from 3% to 22%. That did not happen by luck. Crews spent the night running firing operations along the northwest perimeter, burning fuel out ahead of the fire so it had nothing left to reach. That is why the acreage jumped. Part of what burned, crews burned on purpose. Today they are securing and strengthening that line. 802 people are now assigned here, up by more than 200 in a day. 15 crews, 85 engines. 13 structures have been lost. Fire behavior is still described as active, with short crown runs, group torching, and long-range spotting. Homes and energy infrastructure remain threatened. A community meeting is being held today, and it will be live-streamed for anyone who cannot get there. Now the fire that is going the wrong way. Coleman Creek, 8 miles east of Ventura, has passed 180,000 acres. It gained more than 34,000 of those in the last 24 hours alone. Containment is 0. To put that day of growth in scale, it burned an area larger than the entire bench fire in one day. And here is the number that should worry you. 121 people are assigned to it. That is a fire the size of a small county with the crew of a small town. Numerous structures and energy infrastructure are threatened, and it is running through grass and brush with wind-driven runs and spotting. Because evacuation levels are changing constantly right now, it is worth being clear about what they mean. Level 1 means be ready. There is a fire in your area and you should be aware of it. Gather your documents, medication, and a few days of clothing and put them somewhere you can grab quickly. Level 2 means be set. There is significant danger and you should be ready to leave at a moment's notice. If you have animals or anyone who needs extra time to move, this is the point to go early rather than wait. Nobody will think less of you for leaving at level 2. Level 3 means go now, leave immediately, do not stop to gather belongings, and do not wait to see whether conditions improve. Fire officials are blunt about this for a reason, because a level 3 order often means there will not be time for a second warning. Check your county's official channels rather than relying on what you heard yesterday. Levels have moved in both directions this week, a word on the national picture because it explains where the help is coming from. More than 27,000 firefighters are now committed across the country, up by 1,000 in a single day. Of those, 17,799 are here in the Pacific Northwest. That is roughly 2/3 of the entire national fire force working in one corner of the map, and the Northwest gained nearly 1,300 people overnight. Since January, more than 43,000 fires have burned over 4.5 million acres nationally. That is around 1/3 above the 10-year average, and the Northwest alone accounts for 862,000 of those acres. Nationally, there are 136 active incidents under management, covering more than 2.8 million acres, with 587 crews, 1,600 engines, and 200 helicopters committed. Support is still arriving from overseas. A 15-member management team and 59 fireline personnel from Australia and New Zealand are working the Northwest, and military air tankers are flying out of Klamath Falls and Redding. Now the fires themselves, largest first, with what changed since yesterday. Big Grass has passed 300,000 acres, 25 miles southwest of Jordan Valley. It gained 13,000 acres, but containment tripled from 5% to 15%. 363 people are on it now, more than double yesterday. The Roe Creek complex also passed 300,000 acres, 10 miles south of Fossil. Containment moved from 39% to 42%. This is now the largest single incident in the state by personnel, with more than 2,200 people, 70 crews, and 128 engines. 25 structures have been lost, and it has cost nearly $18 million. The Hay Creek Complex, 5 miles west of Condon, has passed 200,000 acres and holds at 90% contained. Fire behavior there is minimal now, just creeping and smoldering. 11 structures were lost before crews got it under control. Second Flat, northeast of Riley, has passed 100,000 acres, and containment tripled from 6% to 18%. Bald Mountain, southeast of Burns, jumped to 84,000 acres. And this is one of the better stories of the day. Yesterday, it was 1% contained. Today, it is 29%. Fox, northeast of Huntington, has passed 68,000 acres after gaining more than 9,000. It finally has containment at 10% after days at 0. 8 structures have burned there. Shingle, southeast of Mitchell, is at 64,000 acres and holds at 6%. Hagen, east of Pendleton, has passed 31,000 acres at 3%, with uphill runs, torching, and spotting. Homes and energy infrastructure are threatened and evacuations remain in effect. Grasshopper in the Mount Hood National Forest has passed 18,000 acres and is still at 0 containment. But its fire behavior has eased from extreme to moderate, and the crew there tripled overnight from about 100 people to 373. Then a run of fires where crews are clearly winning. Hat, east of Burns, is at 89% contained, up from 50. Powder River is at 96, up from 83, and is expected to be fully contained tomorrow. Jackass Butte went from 26% to 70 in a single day. Stubble is at 93, Crater is at 97. Henry moved to 57%, Coyote holds at 77, and East Evans Creek Road near Rogue River is now at 78%. Akawa Butte, northeast of Sisters, deserves its own moment. It actually got smaller, down 31 acres after more accurate mapping. Containment nearly doubled from 10% to 19%. Fire behavior is down to creeping and smoldering. State fire marshal crews are finishing their final shift there today because containment around all structures is now complete. Last week, this fire was running at a neighborhood on the northern edge of Sisters. And the 10-mile fire near Madras has dropped off the national report entirely. That means it is done. Below those, a dozen smaller fires are still open. Burnt Creek, north of Enterprise, reached 13% containment for the first time. Anthony is at 89, Bologna at 89, Egypt at 82, Salmon at 67, and Olive Butte at 60. Castle, northeast of Tiller, remains at 0, and Paradise east of Milton Freewater is still at 0 after 9 days. It is worth looking at what these fires have cost, because the money shows where the danger actually was. East Evans Creek Road near Rogue River has burned 15,000 acres and cost nearly $58 million. Salmon has burned 1,400 acres and cost almost $34 million. Akawa Butte at 27,000 acres has cost $26.5 million. Compare that with Big Grass, 300,000 acres, $3.6 million. The difference is not the size of the fire, it is what stands next to it. When you see a small fire with an enormous budget, that is a town being defended. There is one more piece of news worth marking. Every one of those containment gains happened on the same day 2 fires added 50,000 acres between them. This is what a fire season looks like when resources are stretched. Crews win where they are, and the fires grow where they are not. Oregon is also not dealing with this alone, and that matters for how fast help arrives. The Northwest is managed as one theater, so Oregon and Washington draw from the same pool of crews and aircraft. 50 large incidents are burning across the 2 states, covering nearly 2 million acres. In Washington, the Kaiser Canyon fire near Nespelem has passed 128,000 acres at 27% containment. 44 structures have been lost there, the heaviest structure loss anywhere in the region. And the Sinlahican fire west of Tonasket exploded overnight from 3,000 acres to nearly 9,000, with extreme fire behavior and 0 containment. A California management team is being mobilized to it. Every crew that goes north is a crew that does not arrive at Coleman Creek. The smoke picture improved sharply, and this is the best news in the report. Along the Highway 97 corridor through Central Oregon, air quality dropped back to low levels of particulate pollution. Only Prineville registered above moderate at an index of 101, which is classed as unhealthy for sensitive groups. Since that number will change again, here is what it means. Anything above 100 is unhealthy for sensitive groups. Above 150 is unhealthy for everyone. Above 200 is very unhealthy. Central Oregon spent much of this week in the higher bands, so a reading of 101 is a real reprieve. The advice stays the same when the smoke returns, and it will. Stay indoors where you can and keep windows and doors closed. If it is too hot for that, run air conditioning on recirculate rather than drawing outside air in. Avoid strenuous outdoor activity because heavy breathing pulls far more smoke into your lungs. If you have an air filter, run it where you sleep. Children, older adults, pregnant women, and anyone with asthma, heart, or lung conditions are at real risk here, not theoretical risk. Follow your doctor's advice and do not wait until symptoms are bad before acting. You can check current conditions for your own address on the National Fire and Smoke Map, and readings change within hours as the plumes shift. Road and area closures remain in place across most of the fire zones. Check road conditions before you leave rather than on the way. Evacuation maps are published live, and Central Oregon agencies run a text alert service, which is the fastest way to hear that something has changed near you. If you want to help the families who have lost homes, money is more useful than goods. Truckloads of donated supplies, however well meant, take up the same roads the fire crews need. Now the weather, because the next few days decide whether these gains hold. Fire behavior is driven by 4 things: how dry the air is, how hard the wind blows, how unstable the atmosphere is, and how dry the vegetation has become. Start with humidity, because it matters more than temperature. Relative humidity across the inland Northwest is running between 8 and 20%, which forecasters describe as unseasonably low for this time of year. Worse, the overnight recovery is failing in many places, coming back only to between 10 and 30%. That night window is when crews do their most productive work. When humidity stops recovering after dark, fires burn around the clock. Wind is the second factor, and today it is on your side. Outside of thunderstorm activity, winds will stay relatively light across the region. The one exception is the cascade gaps, where air funnels through and picks up speed. That is exactly where Grasshopper and Bench are burning. The third factor is instability, and here there is a real risk today. Forecasters have the highest confidence in isolated, dry thunderstorms across north central and eastern Idaho, extending into southern Montana and western Wyoming. There is a lower probability but potentially high impact zone running from eastern Washington into northwest Montana. Dry thunderstorms are the worst combination there is. Lightning without rain. And lightning does not always start a fire straight away. A strike can smolder inside a tree or underground for days before anything shows on the surface. Those are holdover fires, and several of the fires in this report began exactly that way, from storms that passed through more than a week ago. The fourth factor is the fuel, and it will not change quickly. Temperatures are running 5 to 15 degrees above normal across much of the West. The vegetation has been drying since spring. Officials describe conditions where a single ember is enough to start the next major fire. So observe the burn restrictions. Chainsaws, vehicles parked on dry grass, and loose trailer chains have all started fires in conditions like these. What would actually end this is a change of pattern, a system bringing cooler air and real rain into the fire zones. That is not in the forecast. So here is where Oregon stands tonight. 32 large fires, more than 1.5 million acres. Containment climbing on most of them for the first time in a week. But Coleman Creek grew by an area the size of a city in a single day, with 120 people trying to hold it. Behind every acreage figure in this report is somebody's ranch, somebody's home, somebody's town. Thousands of people are still sleeping somewhere other than their own bed, and some of them do not yet know whether they have a house to go back to. If you are in one of these counties, please take the advisories seriously, even if the sky looked better today. Levels came down this week, and they can go back up. Keep your phone charged and your fuel tank full. And check on your neighbors, particularly older people and anyone living alone, because they are often the last to hear that something has changed. If you are watching from somewhere safe, spare a thought for the 17,000 people working in that smoke across the Northwest, and for the crews who have traveled from as far as Australia and New Zealand to help. One last thing. If you have been watching these updates through the week, you will have noticed the tone shift today. For 6 days, the numbers only went one way. Today, for the first time, most of the fires in this state are being brought under control. Hat, Powder River, Jackass Butte, Bald Mountain, Second Flat, Fox, Akawa Butte, and 10 Mile is finished altogether. That is the work of 17,000 people who have been on the line for weeks, plus reinforcements from the other side of the world. It deserves saying out loud, even on a day when 2 other fires ran. Warm Springs is still under fire tonight, and Coleman Creek is still growing. Take care of yourselves out there, look after each other, and stay safe.